Dr. Jerry, you got the whole world waiting. Been ready for you to start the conversation. Your point of view, it got the haters confused. Leave it up to you to bring us all the good news. Positive vibes and the sex appeal too. Dr. Andre Jerry, can I get an interview of you?
Hello, everybody. Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to an all-new episode of Live with Dr. Andre Jerry, broadcasting live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So, this is our 13th episode, and I'm extremely grateful for your listenership and your support, as well as the opportunity to be on the air for over a year now. We've had a lot of great discussions over the past 12 months, and we plan on sharing even more engaging content and inspirational stories in this upcoming year. It's definitely a privilege to have a platform where we can showcase fellow entrepreneurs and entertainers, authors, you name it, inventors, business people who are experts in their respective fields, and sometimes people who just have an interesting point of view. So to those tuning in tonight, or if you're listening to the replay online, if you know someone who you think would make a great guest for the show, hit me up. You can DM me on LinkedIn, Instagram, or you can shoot me an email at livewithdrandrejerry@gmail.com. So listen, we have a very informative show for you this evening. We're continuing our celebration of our 1-year milestone, and we're inviting back to the show some of our favorite guests. And tonight, our guests are two dynamic businesswomen who are top-notch professionals in their respective fields, and they bring a lot of value to conversations surrounding the housing market. They also hold a very special place in my heart because they appeared as guests for our very first live episode, which aired last August. So without further ado, please help me welcome back to the show Realtor Adria Massey and Mortgage Loan Officer Kychell Bozier. Ladies, hello and welcome back to the show.
Hello,
Hi,
hello.
thank you for the warm welcome.
Yes, excited
All
to
right,
be back.
great. I'm so glad to have you both back. Thank you both for clearing your schedules this evening and for agreeing to come back on the show and give our audience some insight on, kind of what's been happening in the housing market lately. As you know, it's been a volatile year for real estate with the mortgage rate increases. We've had inventory that's been up and down. Housing affordability has gotten a bit worse, and it seems to be like a relatively uncertainty where the market is concerned. So I'm glad that you both are here to shed some light on things and perhaps give the consumers at least some assurance that things are not necessarily as bleak as they're making it out to be. So let's jump right in. It's been a year since our last conversation, of course, regarding the housing market. A year ago, we were in the beginning stages of a market correction, and we were all adjusting to this sudden spike in interest rates, and the buying frenzy had slowed down considerably. Supply was a bit constrained, but home prices were still relatively high. So here we are now a year later, and I'd like to get both of your viewpoints on how the housing market has evolved over the past year. Adria, let's start with you. What's your take on what's been happening with the housing market the past year?
Well, we have definitely had a year, that is for sure. Pretty much it's doing its own thing, honestly. Of course, as you know, in 2022, we had just a spike in home prices. Houses were flying off the shelf. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West. Of course, over the past year, things have calmed down a little bit. Prices of the homes are still high, but they have actually started to stabilize a little bit. Of course, everyone knows about the up and down with the interest rates. And they are, at an all-time high for the past couple of years, not necessarily historically, but from what people have been experiencing the past couple of years. So, of course, that has set a few buyers on the sidelines. To me, it's pretty stabilized. It's getting there. We're getting back to that normal market. It hasn't quite gotten there yet, but we are trending back towards that direction. Affordability is still a major concern, probably one of the biggest issues definitely here in North Carolina and probably in several markets as well. So my opinion is that, we're getting back to more of a normalized housing market. We still got a lot of work to do, but it's better than it was last year, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, if you like roller coasters, and this has been a fun ride. Like you said, we started with the spike around 2022, and then it got a little calm and went high prices, high interest rates. Buyers are scared, and now it seems, at least from your vantage point, that things are getting a bit more stable. Kychell, how are things looking from your vantage point over the past 12 months? How the market has been trending?
It has been very interesting, but I like the word stabilization because that was the goal. And I'm going to piggyback off what Adria said. I feel like now we're at a point where we're kind of slowing it down, and by the affordability being the way it is, you got less people running to try to pull these houses off the shelf, and it's given the market a chance to cool off some to a normal place. So it was needed. I don't think any of us were ready for it, but we're here now, and we'll see what happens next.
Right. So that's good that you both agree that, we're at a point of some stabilization. So that's good. This past year, I've not been actively participating in real estate, at least not in the States. I've been more of a speculator, but because I have rental property, I do my best to try to stay informed and keep a pulse on market trends and home prices. And what I've noticed, at least over the past year especially, is that supply is somewhat stagnant. I wouldn't say that there's a shortage, but there seems to be not a lot of variety out there, at least not in Georgia. It's like there's either overpriced, trashed homes that, investors have bought for pennies on the dollar and they're trying to flip it for a profit. Or on the other end, you have just new construction homes with a median price point of $300,000 and up. So I think all of the moderately priced quality homes were scooped up during the last buying frenzy. And, we forget that there are millions of Americans out there with 3 and 4% rates. I don't think they're ever going to sell their homes. They're not ever going to move. At best, they'll probably do what I did and convert their home into like a rental, because they're never going to see that rate again. So I believe that's why we're not seeing the same level of homes trading on the open market like in previous years. And something else I noticed too is that banks seem to be a little bit more restrictive in lending out money this past year. It's not as easy as it used to be to get approved for a loan, even if you have like a low DTI and collateral. It's like if you're not at 725 and up on your credit score, they don't even want to mess with you. And if you couple that with the interest rate that's approaching now almost 8%, it's no wonder, we got all these buyers sitting on the sidelines, waiting to see what's going to happen next. And Kychell, I know you've been keeping your eyes on the mortgage interest rate fluctuations this past year. In your opinion, what's driving these changes, and how has it impacted your business and your clientele?
Yeah, so I think the main factor, like we said, was just trying to get the market to slow back down and to correct itself. So all that stuff is just kind of compiled into the interest rates going up. And it has affected us, I'll say, getting out of those 2s and 3s, that's kind of where it hit the hardest, is trying to get everybody to know, like, we're going up. Even now at the 7s, I think people kind of know we're up there. And more so what it's done is it's bought the buyers out who either have to move or have to downsize. So we have those type of buyers that are in the market now that are more so I have to do this right now. This is a urgent need of mine. And the ones that sat on the sidelines when things were low saying, I'm going to wait, they're kind of regretting it now, because now with affordability, they can't particularly get a home that you said is going to be worth what the money they're paying for is.
Right. Do you think we'll ever see the 2s and 3% interest rates again?
Honestly, I don't know. I hope we do, but I'm thinking it'll probably maybe settle at the 5 because, that was a kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime deal. It happened because of the pandemic, and it was something that was needed at that time. And now they're just trying to get everything back to normal because they were kind of just giving away money for free back then. And now, we got to make up for it some kind of way.
Yeah, I'll take 5%. 8, where we're trending now is that's a lot. But Adria, how has your business been impacted? Have you been seeing a decline in real estate transactions? And how are your clients responding to all of this?
Well, I have many clients that's responding to what they're seeing on the news, responding to the social media gurus and everyone, the mechanic down the street that's giving advice. So it's kind of like just trying to keep everybody properly informed. Of course, things have went down. That's inevitable. People aren't used to the new norm of the interest rates currently. Everyone's still looking at that 2 to 4% that people were jumping on. And so a lot of buyers are, now kind of saying, well, I'm just going to wait, see what happens with the market. I'm going to wait for the interest rates to come down and things like that, which is fine for some people. But, and unfortunately, with the interest rates going up, the buyers who are still currently motivated, some of them are actually not qualifiable anymore. Of course, it knocked down their buying power. So they are unfortunately kind of having to sit to the side right now until things get a little better for them and their financial situations, and it can get them into a better home that they're interested in. But, it's really a case-by-case situation. For some people, it's like the best thing in the world, the investors and the hedge funds and the big people, it's an awesome time for them. But, the standard normal home buyer, we are seeing a few struggles in that department.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And, given the current condition of the market, what are some of the trends that you've been seeing, at least in the Charlotte real estate market? Like, what's hot right now?
Ooh, what's hot right now is definitely new construction. They're the ones that's, even though they are still low on demand, they are popping up everywhere because they're able to better meet the supply than some of the resale homes. Like you mentioned earlier, with the sellers locking in on those 2 and 3% interest rates, they're not motivated to sell their homes right now. If they're not motivated to sell their homes, then that creates a huge issue with the supply. And so the only options that we're having is investors coming in and they're flipping homes and trying to get those kind of market ready. Or on the flip side, you have the new construction. So it's kind of like pick one or the other, or dive into the craziness of trying to get one of the resale homes when the seller decides that, hey, I want to go ahead and lose this interest rate that I currently have and go up to the 7 and 8, So that's kind of the situation that we're dealing with. That's what's trending in the Charlotte area.
Yeah, I noticed that. I noticed that you do feature a lot of new construction on your social media. New construction isn't bad. One of the things I always wonder is what are the challenges with that? Like I saw one of the reels you did recently where you were talking about doing a check on the construction. I guess they have like weekly updates that tell you where they are in the construction, and you were talking about making sure things that are on track and are not going wrong. What are some of the things you've seen go wrong in new construction? It seems like it would be relatively stress-free, but I'm sure there are hiccups here and there.
Oh, of course. There are several hiccups that can happen when you're dealing with new construction. One of the biggest things is time. When you're dealing with vendors and you're having to rely on other people to also make sure things are done in a timely manner, those can cause delays. So one of the biggest things or biggest challenges when you're dealing with new construction is, am I going to actually have this time frame that I originally thought? Is my house going to be ready in the 6 months that the builder originally quoted me? There's a situation that I'm currently going through now that, our timeline has gotten pushed back a month. So, one of the biggest things is that you always want to make sure that there's communication. When you're dealing with new construction, you have to communicate with that builder nonstop because you need to know, are there any delays? What's going on your end? Is everything sticking to your schedule so that the client can be properly informed and make decisions? Because as that's happening with the construction, you have to remember the interest rates are steadily changing. And most people, or most lenders, and I'm sure Kychell can speak on this as well, if you're starting a process and you are getting a home built from the ground up back in March of this year, and you're not expected to close until towards the latter part of this year, those interest rates are changing. They're fluctuating, so you're not actually sure what that final payment is going to be, what's going to happen in the course of that time. So you're kind of just hoping things either, go down in regards to the interest rates, and then there's so many variables that can just happen with life. So, it can be a bit of a gamble. It's exciting, don't get me wrong, but, you have to be prepared and ready and educated when you're dealing with new construction.
Yeah, you do. And that's a good point. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something that I didn't consider. And I'm sure you deal with that all the time, Kychell, with people who are expected to close on a certain date and it ends up getting extended, and they're dealing with a increased, interest rate that they weren't prepared for. Have you experienced a lot of that with your clientele?
Yes, unfortunately, like she said, it does happen. There's so many variables. Like Charlotte just got its tax valuation, so we might have quoted it based off taxes from last year, which we won't have the taxes until the actual home is up. And if everything else went up, then the taxes for that new build can go up, making the monthly payment higher. Interest rate, making the monthly payment higher. And so I try to get people to not go to their maximum amount, especially when doing a new build, because we're going to need that wiggle room accounted for when it actually comes time to close, if in case any of these delays or things happen.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. You actually brought it up. I was going to ask, do you normally or typically, I lost my train of thought. Do you typically encourage your clients to max qualify, or do you encourage them to leave some wiggle room for, like you said, if there's a interest rate that you weren't expecting, or if there's some type of insurance premiums that are going to go up for some reason, because that's been trending as well. What do you normally tell them in terms of the max qualify thing?
Yeah, I usually ask every single client, what is their comfortable monthly mortgage payment?
Yes.
And so when I do that, I go back and explain to them, I'm going to tell you what your max is. I'm going to tell you where you're comfortable. And I would like for you to stay where you're comfortable at, but know that you have the buffer room. So, of course, they have the option to go to their max, but I always try to kind of map it out to let the client see this is what it looks like here or there. So, but I would advise not going to the max just for the what if.
Yeah, you want to leave some wiggle room. You never know what, especially in this market that we're in, you just don't know what type of circumstances you'll find yourself in. But back to the new construction homes, Adria, you one of your reels, I think you highlighted the Druid Hills community. And this particular community, I think, have a lot of properties that are eligible for House Charlotte buyers. And for those who aren't familiar with the House Charlotte program, could you tell the audience a little bit about this program?
Oh, sure. So the House Charlotte program is a program designed for low to moderate income buyers here in the Charlotte area. So, of course, there are some kind of regulations in terms of where you can utilize this program at. There's definitely qualifications when it comes to meeting your income. If I'm not mistaken, and Kychell, please chime in anytime, I believe you have to be at 80% of the area median income here in Charlotte to qualify for that. First-time home buyers. So there's certain various eligibility requirements that is required for that particular program, but it's awesome because it does allow you to get up to $80,000 in down payment assistance, and that opens up the door right there.
Sure does, yeah.
Especially for those buyers who are struggling coming up with that down payment, that gives them the option to kind of have that additional help, that assistance with getting into a home. But what I like about the different builders who have kind of connected with House Charlotte is that they are making certain homes only available to those particular buyers who qualify for that program. And that kind of eliminates all of the craziness and some of the bidding wars and things like that. It kind of makes it a smooth transition for some of those particular buyers to be able to get into a home. So, if there's anyone that is definitely interested in that particular program or having issues with down payment, I would highly recommend checking out the House Charlotte program.
Yeah, I love programs like that kind of give first-time home buyers an edge in the game, because that's one of the biggest headaches is where am I going to get the money for my down payment? So programs like this are really invaluable, especially to first-time home buyers. Now, this Druid Hills community, are all the homes eligible for House Charlotte buyers, or is it just certain homes in the community, or is every home an eligible property?
No, so it really depends on the particular area in Charlotte and the actual home itself. So there are some homes that builders are building that's saying, this particular home is only going to be for House Charlotte buyers. And then you also have the homes that's within the range that the House Charlotte program covers in certain zip codes and things like that within Charlotte. The Druid Hills community is an area that they are currently going in and revamping homes. They're putting up new construction homes. They're kind of rebuilding some of the older homes to make them up to the current standards that we're looking for. And so those type of communities are generally more of the minority areas, and this allows them to become homeowners in the areas in which they already currently live. And, it just pretty much opens up the doors for them. But, no, it really just depends on the particular home and the area if it qualifies for that House Charlotte program.
Got it. And Kychell, I noticed that your firm, Geneva Financial, was among the approved lenders list for the House Charlotte program. Can you explain a little bit about how this application process for this program works? Like, is that something that you can help your clients apply for, or do they have to do some legwork before they even, get to your desk?
Yeah, so 9 times out of 10, they'll have to go through an approved lender, like Geneva Financial, in order to be able to access that program. Because us as a lender, we have to gather the application, and then, of course, the programs, they have their additional guidelines. So we need to make sure the client fits under that first. And, the first ones that pop up in my mind is the 640 credit score. And on a normal loan product, we only have to collect 2 years of W-2s, whereas on a down payment or first-time homebuyer assistance program, we need to collect 3 years. And then another important thing is going to be the household income. So even if somebody is not on the actual loan that is going to be living in the home, then we have to account for that income to make sure we're not going over what the area median income is. So.
Right. Thank you for explaining that. And just to the listeners, I just want to encourage them, just because, you're not in the Charlotte area, usually every major city or jurisdiction has some type of first-time home buyer program that has, down payment assistance that you can take advantage of. So definitely just do a quick Google search if you're a first-time home buyer in whatever city, and you'll run across a lot of initiatives and programs, and definitely connect with the realtor or mortgage lender professional. They'll steer you in the right direction and let you know what programs are out there that are current. I want to shift gears a bit and just talk about the growth in the Charlotte area. Of course, I did some research for this episode here, and according to recent statistics, a new study found that more people moved to Charlotte in 2022 than any other southern city. And according to the U.S. Census, the Queen City, of course, Charlotte, ranked 15 among the nation's fastest growing cities. And I lived in Atlanta for over 10 years, and my friends and I always said that, if Atlanta doesn't get their stuff together, Charlotte was going to be the new place to be. We were already seeing a good number of Fortune 500 businesses that had been headquartered in Atlanta for decades relocate their headquarters to Charlotte, largely due to issues like traffic and parking and, taxes and just poor infrastructure throughout the city. And of course, affordable housing. So on the topic of affordable housing, according to economists, affordability is the signature issue among home buyers right now. And I'll direct this question to both of you. As professionals in this market who are working directly with consumers, are they complaining to you guys about affordability? Is that something that you're hearing from your clients? Adria, we'll start with you.
Most definitely. Affordability is the number one hurdle that we are currently experiencing here in North Carolina, and I know that they're experiencing that in other markets because it's one of the number one issues just right here in the U.S. right now. But the biggest situation is, of course, with the interest rates, but also the home prices have almost doubled in what they used to be just a couple of years ago. And so these homes are now, our median sales price here is in the low 400s. And so if you're thinking about numbers like that for just for a standard home here in Charlotte, think about how many people that is currently pricing out. I know there was a study that was recently done here in Charlotte, and they were actually saying that if you made under $50,000, that Charlotte was actually no longer affordable for you. And so you have to think about law enforcement, teachers, some of our first responders that are getting around the range of that salary, maybe a little more, a little under. And so you have to think like, wow, some of our normal working citizens that live here in Charlotte is actually no longer affordable for them. So what's the actual game plan for them? What are we going to do about that situation? That's the number one topic here. And, it's something that, in my opinion, has not been resolved as of yet, because the home prices are still, trending up, not as fast, but affordability is a hot topic. And right now, unfortunately, that is eliminating a lot of buyers and having them have to move further out from Charlotte. They're taking commute over being, closer.
Yeah, I definitely have been seeing a trend with that as well. Kychell, what are your clients griping about? Are they saying that affordability is something that they're also concerned with?
Yep, affordability. And like she said, if you're having a single family income in a household, or like she said, our normal everyday workers who are making less than $50,000, they are being priced out of Charlotte and having to look into places that are further out, maybe have that hour commute to work, and it is definitely a pain point. So that is the number one thing I'm hearing. Just if it's not two income households, or then it's kind of hard to get something that's good.
Yeah, it really is a crisis nationwide. It was more localized in certain areas in previous decades and years, but now it just seems, especially on the coastal community, that seems to be are almost unbearable. I remember 10, 15 years ago in Atlanta, every time there was a election year, one of the municipal election year, one of the big concerns was always affordability and of homes. People were complaining that, hey, rents are high, mortgages are high. And so it was driving a lot of people further and further away from the cities to the point that you just made, Kychell. So it's just something that's continuing to get worse and worse, unfortunately. I moved from Georgia to Boston a couple of years back and went through my own culture shock. I got my house, of course, at a very good rate. Mortgage is less than $500. I get to Boston, rent. My rent was well over $3,000, and I could afford it, but it was just such a shock to go from paying less than $500 a month in mortgage to paying over close to $3,700 a month in rent. It just made me sick for the first 3 or 4 months. So I definitely, affordability is something that really, I feel the pain. I'll just say that. But Adria, we'll move on. Considering the growth that Charlotte has been seeing over the past few years, what's the buyer profile that you've been seeing in the Charlotte area? Are you seeing married couples buying, or young professionals? What's the typical profile looking like?
Honestly, it's a wide range. There's actually a lot of single women that are kind of tackling and taking over the home buying market right now. You definitely have families that are choosing some of the outskirts areas of Charlotte. But one of the biggest things I would have to say is the younger generation with the higher incomes. They are taking over Charlotte. We have a lot of people from some of the higher price point areas, such as, New York and California, that have sold their homes for way more than what, our home prices are here. And they're coming down and relocating to this area, because I know you mentioned that we are getting a lot of growth. And I know you had stated a stat just a little bit ago about how Charlotte was growing at such a tremendous rate. And that is so true. And some of that profile is some of those, the younger people with the higher incomes. I believe I had recently saw something that said the Gen X era are currently some of the people with the highest incomes. And they are honestly taking over.
Saw that too. Yep. It's
the YouTubers.
Oh, man.
And, so it's really a wide range. I can't say for sure that, it's definitely a married couple or a single. It's really a combination, which makes Charlotte so diverse. And it's a great place to move, but we have a wide range of population. And I think it's a little bit of everyone that's kind of driving our market here.
Well, that's good to hear. It's good that the buyer profile is diverse. I think that says that speaks a lot of positivity for where we're going with the market. Kychell, what I want to ask you is, in terms of these new construction homes that are all the rage in the Charlotte area that are going for $300,000 and $400,000, could you give us some insight into the buyer profile of an ideal client who would be able to successfully navigate their way through the home loan process? Talk a little bit about that, please.
So the ones I've been seeing who have the best option is, like she said, either some of the younger generation that are making upwards $78,000 on up, or either a combined income household, no debt, higher credit scores that just really have everything in line, have savings. So those are the people that I think are fitting the best profile for that price range without it being a struggle and a hassle to try to get in. And so that's what I'm saying.
Did you say no debt or low debt?
I wish no debt, low debt, but they, try to have their debt as low as possible.
Have you seen where student loans are preventing some people from getting to the closing table?
I'm going to say not here recently. People who have like really high student loan debt and they don't have a student loan payment in place, that's where I'm seeing where it's knocking them out. So it just depends on their financial profile and what kind of debt they have sitting there already.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies, listen, I'm enjoying this discussion that we're having so far on this topic. Right now, what we're going to do is take a quick break. And in our next segment, we're going to dive deeper into this topic and get our guests' predictions on the housing market outlook for the remainder of 2023. So stay tuned. There'll be more to come when we return.
Hey, ladies. Have you ever dated a married man? Have you ever thought to yourself, that would never be me? Have you ever wondered, how could she? Have you ever said, she should be ashamed of herself? Well, I used to say those same things, and I've pointed fingers that I don't point anymore, because now I am that other woman. What do you do when you meet a man that makes you question everything you thought was wrong? Where do you go when life has led you into a dark place, where society frowns upon you, and even your own mother is disappointed in you? Who do you turn to for guidance and support when there's no one you can share your secret with? Life is more complex than the list of rules you've been taught throughout the years. Situations are not always black and white. Sometimes your mind and your heart don't want the same thing, and you find yourself in a battle between right and wrong. I never understood how women got themselves in these situations until I was that woman. We don't always seek the circumstances we end up in. Although many people may not understand, there are some that do. If you ever find yourself dealing with a forbidden love, How to Date a Married Man, 10 Rules of Engagement, written by Dr. Andre Jerry, is a must-read. It's not comprised of judgments and lectures, but rather rules of engagement that you must apply when you find yourself the other woman in his life. Ready to learn more? The controversial new book, How to Date a Married Man, 10 Rules of Engagement, written by relationship expert Dr. Andre Jerry, is now available for sale, exclusively on Amazon and Kindle.
I never met someone like you. Never felt this way before. I feel like I've known you forever. Every day I crave you more. I can't get you out of my head. Baby, baby. I can't get you out of my head. Baby, baby. Feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. Feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. Feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. Feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. We got forever. Slow it down. Take our time. Baby, our love is right on time. We got forever. I'm ready for love, but it's not that I don't want to be with you.
I just need some time alone.
I love all the moments we share.
I just need some time alone.
I can't wait to make love to you.
I just need some time alone.
fast.
I just need some time alone.
I feel like I've known you forever. 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 Never felt this way before. Every day I crave you more. I can't get you out of my head. Baby, baby. I can't get you out of my head. Baby, baby. It feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. Feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. Feels like we're going too fast. Cause I wanna make this last. Feels like we're going too fast. I feel like we're going too fast. I feel like we're going too fast. I feel like we're going too fast.
You're back live with Dr. Andre Jerry.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Live with Dr. Andre Jerry. You just finished listening to my latest single, Wait a Minute, Baby, which is now available on all streaming platforms. And if you're an independent artist, musician, or author, and you'd like to showcase your latest project on our internationally broadcast show, then send an email to my team at livewithdrandrejerry@gmail.com. Now, if you're just joining us, my guests tonight are Charlotte Realtor Adria Massey and Mortgage Loan Officer Kychell Bozier. And they're sharing valuable information with us tonight about the current housing market trends and what we can expect as we close out 2023. So before the break, we were talking about the current inventory in the Charlotte area, which is mostly comprised of new construction to keep up with the incremental growth that they've been seeing, for the number of years now, almost 10 years. We also talked about programs like House Charlotte, which is a down payment assistance program that's aimed at helping first-time home buyers who want to purchase homes in the Charlotte area. And so now I want to shift the focus a bit back to the consumer. So, Kychell, can you explain to our listeners the importance of buyers developing an early relationship with a mortgage lender in this current market especially, and the value that a professional like yourself can bring to the table?
Yes. So I think if you are going to start the home buying process, to at least start 3 to 6 months ahead of time before when you plan on moving. Of course, we can get it done in 1 month's time, but this 3 to 6 months will give you the proper amount of time to prepare for whatever financial finances that you might need in order to cover and to get the education, to be informed, to be able to know the difference between the home types, but just to go in there and really know and have that confidence when it is time to go looking for homes and put in the offer, so that when you do put it in, it'll be a successful transaction and not as stressful as it could be.
Yeah, a little bit of homework and, education before diving, both feet in is definitely value added. I saw in one of your episodes, you have a web series called Eyes on Mortgage. And in one of your episodes, you talked about how you take care of your clients emotionally and how you begin the process with asking 3 important questions. Can you talk a little bit about how you address the emotional needs of your clients and why it's important to do so?
Yes. And then especially right now in this time that we're in, like I said, I like to ask the clients the questions, what is important to them? Why is it important for them to buy a house right now? Second question I like to ask is, what makes you uncomfortable about the home buying process? And the third question I like to ask is there anybody else involved that's going to be a decision maker that we need to have in on the conversation, so that we're not getting those side conversations of people confusing and putting the wrong information into the client's head. And so I find that makes it a little bit easier throughout the process to kind of bring people back in, especially if you get out there and it's not the amount that you want, or the home isn't looking like what you ideally wanted it to look like. Then I'm able to go back and say, you remember when I asked you, why was this important to you? Is that still what your motivating factor is? How can we keep you motivated and keep your mind into the logical space of, this is why I'm doing it, without emotionally getting bent out of shape. So just really trying to help mitigate some of that stress so that it makes it a little bit easier when we're out there looking and making sure that it makes sense of what they're doing.
Wow, I really love that. What's important to you? What concerns you the most? And who else is involved in the decision-making process? That's a really awesome approach to fostering a good relationship with your client from the onset. I don't think we realize a lot of people go into this process, the loan application process, with a lot of trepidation, nerves. Sometimes their defenses are up. So you don't know what they've gone through, financially or otherwise. So asking that question, what's important to you, that immediately sets the tone of trust. And then that second question, what concerns you about this process, that goes to the heart of their fear about the process, if they have any. And I think it's also a great way to get ahead of the curve and just put all the cards on the table. If they've made a financial blunder or done something, bad, that's going to prevent them from closing, then that's something they need to know in the beginning, so they won't waste anyone's time. And then that last question is my favorite because that's just the way it is. Because sometimes it's true. The decision maker is sometimes not the actual client. I remember when one of my cousins bought his first home, he would not make a move unless my sister, who's an excellent negotiator, by the way, approved. And, I imagine it was very frustrating for the lender at first, but at a point, he just gave up and dealt directly with my sister, since she was the one making the decisions anyway. So I like that you ask those particular questions, because with us in particular, it's very common that the decision maker will be a mother, father, sister, cousin, auntie, what have you. So very keen of you to set the tone with those questions. And so, all the questions that you both have answered tonight, I think the most pressing of the night, and we touched on it a bit in the first segment, but I'll go ahead and ask it again because I know that's what a lot of people want to know, the question or the answer to. Should we buy now or should we wait? And I don't know if there's a right answer to that question, but Adria, how would you answer that question right now?
Honestly, I don't think there is a right or wrong answer to that question. I believe it truly depends on each individual situation. If you can afford to buy right now and you have everything in order and you're not as concerned about the interest rates, go for it. However, if you do feel like you need a little bit more time, you have a few things that you need to get in order, then there is nothing wrong with waiting it out, getting your finances in order, and then buying when you're comfortable. Because the last thing that you actually want to do is get into a home that you ultimately can't afford and wasn't 100% ready for.
Yes, that's true. What about you, Kychell? What do you say?
I say to do it while you can. Do it while you qualify. Do it while you have the money. Do it while you're mentally prepared. As I say, the one regret I get from some past clients is that when they were able to qualify, they didn't make the move.
So you risk a lot by sitting on the sidelines and waiting. It may work out for you, but you may also miss out on the opportunity, huh? Yeah. You know, I think buyers who are really serious about buying a home are not going to let themselves be sidelined. I think they have a game plan. I think serious buyers are going to stay in the game and use this current market to their advantage, use it as an opportunity to find the home that they want and, you know, make an offer, hopefully close the deal, while everyone else is sitting and waiting for the rates to drop. That's what I think. And those people are going to be your clients of today and tomorrow and next week. So, okay, I got so many questions and we're running low on time, but are there any misconceptions or myths about the housing market or interest rates that you would like to discuss that we didn't touch on previously? I'll start with you, Kychell. Something that your clients are always coming to you with, and it's not true.
Yeah. I guess people thinking that the interest rates will be back down into the 2s and 3s. Like, what's the likelihood of that? That's the biggest misconception I'm getting to. It was a once-in-a-lifetime deal. You know, when it happens again, you know, it took a pandemic for that to happen. So I think realistically, if people can just wrap their heads around the new times and that maybe interest rates will get back down to like more like a 5, then it'll help them be able to get over that mental hurdle about the rates and, you know, kind of, like I said, do it when you can.
Got it. And Adria, any misconceptions or myths that you're constantly hearing on your side?
Oh, yes. One of the biggest things is that everyone seems to think that they need 20% down to buy a home, and that is just not the case. Now, if you have 20% that you want to put down, have at it. But that is not a requirement in order to purchase a home. So that is one of the biggest hurdles. But one of the other just misconceptions or myths that is kind of circulating around is that home prices, it's just too much right now, because I had a client actually tell me that her great-granddad's barber, who bought his house back in 1980, that these prices are too much and that she probably really should consider waiting for it to go much lower. And I'm just like, you know, that's not going to happen. You're not getting ready to get a 5-bedroom house in Charlotte for $40,000. It's just not going to happen. So, you know, it's a lot of myths, a lot of misconceptions. So really just get a real estate professional and go through whatever questions that you have so that you can get accurate information.
Right. Very good point. Okay, let's be silly for a minute. Let's talk about some of the things your clients do that drive you absolutely crazy. Who wants to go first?
I'll let Kychell start.
So my number one thing is My clients coming in and thinking they can get into a home with no money. So,
No, man.
I will say there are some upfront fees that I'm calculating in my head already at $2,000, $2,500 that you'll need to have. Due diligence, earnest, inspection, and appraisal. So at least that. And then some of these first-time home buyer programs, even if they're giving you the money, they require you to have some skin in the game. So they may require you to put down $1,000 of your own money anyway. So thinking that you can get it with no money in the bank, that has stopped a handful of people and me having to send them back with some homework and, piece of paper saying, come back when you get this.
And Adria, what's been driving you up the wall?
I want a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath with a pool, preferably sitting on an acre land for under $200,000.
Oh.
Just people's
not gonna happen.
mindset of what's actually out here happening in the market. Why do they need all of these documents? Why do I need to get my credit ran? Like, it's so many things that will literally drive you crazy as a real estate agent. We love our clients, but honestly, you really have to come when you're buying a home. Like, you have to be realistic. But yeah, we could go on and on about some of the crazy things we hear. But, a glass of wine makes the day better, so we just keep at it.
It sure does. And people often glamorize being, a real estate professional or a mortgage professional because, you have schedule flexibility and you got the ability to quickly increase your income and, you can do glamorous reels and all that. But what are some of the not so glamorous aspects of your profession? Kychell?
Not so glamorous is when things slow down, your money slows down. So, you have to be able to manage that in between time, in between the glamour to keep up with everything. And then, on top of that, this work, although you can create your own schedule, you really trade it in a 9 to 5 or 24 hours. So,
that's true.
You have to be available. You're out here working. Sometimes you have to be a counselor. Sometimes you have to be, giving them tax preparer. Like, you have to be so much. You have to be everything to your clients in order to get them to the closing table. You have to have so many resources. So while it looks glamorous, we really do give a lot of ourselves and a lot of our time in the process to make sure that these families are making it home, so to speak.
You absolutely do. Adria, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of what she said, it may seem like it's this glamorous job, we're making reels, we're doing all of this. But honestly, it's a lot of hard work. It's challenging. We're always trying to put out fires, keep deals together. There's so many things that happen behind the scenes that, whatever you're seeing online, trust and believe we're working hard for that behind the scenes because this is not an easy job.
I know it. I tried it myself. Not the mortgage lending. I definitely, that would have gave me a headache. But I did try being a realtor for about a year or two, and it's not for me. I just much rather just buy it and just be an investor. So I do know it's a lot of work. So hats off to you both. I think you both do an exceptional job in your respective fields. And, on top of that, you're very active and engaging on social media. So hats off to both of you. You're doing a great job. I'm going to ask one more question. I had so many that we're not going to get to because we're at the top of the hour. But do either of you feel threatened by the rise in this AI technology? Like, are you afraid you're going to be replaced by a robot one day?
No. Honestly, AI is making my job easier. I absolutely love it. I would highly recommend, if you want to stay relevant in this particular field, I highly, highly suggest you jump on the world of the AI, because it's honestly going to be the future, and it's going to pretty much separate the real estate agents or mortgage professionals that's going to continue to succeed, or it's going to be pretty much the end of the ones who aren't really utilizing that option.
And Kychell, I'm pretty sure you agree with that.
Yes, great enhancements. I love it. It makes me sound so much smarter and intelligent. And I'm actually learning more, too, by letting the AI kind of guide me through stuff that I might not have known or hadn't opened up a book to do, especially how fast-paced we are. I'm like, hey, tell me about this. And, you get the information, you fact-check it, and you have it a lot quicker. So it makes you quicker. And I love it. I even have my headset that I go in and look at real estate on there, too. So,
yeah, you got to embrace it. You got to embrace it. Well, ladies, listen, I really appreciate your time this evening. I feel like we gave our listeners some really valuable information that will hopefully help them to achieve their real estate goals before the close of the year, if they have any. Before we wrap, Adria, any final words, and then please let people know how to reach you.
Okay, sure. My final words would just simply be, if you are absolutely ready to buy a home, don't let the interest rates and things scare you. Get in touch with the loan officer, get in touch with the realtor, and go ahead and make it happen. Of course, if you are interested in getting in contact with me, I can be found on Instagram, TikTok. All of our social media handles are it's the NC Foodie Realtor. And, of course, I am Adria Massey, and I am a realtor here in the local Charlotte, North Carolina market.
Wonderful. Ms. Kychell, any closing remarks to our listeners, please?
Yes. Thank you for having us back. It's an exciting time.
Sure.
I'm glad to still be here. And I can be reached at Kychell Eyes on Mortgage on Facebook. I am on Instagram. It's Eyes on Mortgage, Bozier. But that Eyes on Mortgage, I always hashtag it. So if you ever need that, that should get you to me.
Yes, you definitely own Eyes on Mortgage. Very well. Thank you both again to both my guests, Adria and Kychell. And thank you to all of our listeners in whatever part of the world you're tuning in from this evening. I really do appreciate your listenership so very much. Be sure to join me for the next episode of Live with Dr. Andre Jerry, which will air September 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on the Artist First Radio Network. Good night, everybody.